Guys, just gonna make a quick little how-to video for a couple members that asked me how I installed my Steve Mast control arms. Don't mind the mess. The car is pretty dirty from winter jam last year, which I haven't cleaned it up, so you guys can just ignore that. So with my setup on Duncan's and Steve's, what they recommended was to set the arms in the middle. I just took a measurement and kind of eyeballed it as best as I could and then just measured it. I used the large spacers on either side to get an idea, and then I used a couple small outer diameter washers that fit the same diameter as the bolts and the washers around. You might need a couple of the tiny really thin shims to get in there, just to get the light, a couple little thousandths or whatever it may be on either side. Let me get a closer look. And what I was told was get the front aligned first, and then you can do the back. So you can see I got it's like a spacer collar, but that's pretty much it. I went about 5 turns back out this way from the Heim joint, so that brought my control arm out and my wheel assembly and whatnot out about another ½ inch, maybe a little bit more, maybe less, more or less. It's an idea. But that is pretty much it. I do need to cut the K-member a little bit more here. If not, move on to a Max Motorsports K-member to clear install this. And that is pretty much it. The control arms will bolt up more or less just right. Just as long as you center them, or if you're going forward like some guys. I decided to leave them in the middle just because that's where we wanted them. And just make sure you get enough spacers and those shims that are the same diameter as the bolt, so you can get it lined up in dead center either way. And that is pretty much it. That's bolted on. Then it's just clearance your upper frame rail, do your caster camber plate mod, bolt it on up here, and make sure you, if you're doing a John Duncan and Steve setup, make sure you add some camber here at the spindle or strut, whatever you call it, and do your bump steer. I'm on it's a Duncan Motors, believe it's a stage 2 or 3 knuckle that's got some Ackerman taken out, but it's also somewhat of a setup for a street living car, which is what my car is. But that's pretty much it. I used a stock swivel end link on the Steve arms, and I just had to trim down the bushing and the washer, but everything else pretty much bolted up, and I think that should be it for you guys that were kind of wondering about the install. It shouldn't be too bad as long as you take your time and you measure everything. Make sure you keep an eye on it and double check it. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward, and you guys will definitely, I guarantee you, will love the angle. It'll be like a drug. As you can see, I'm maxed out here and I'm rubbing on the control arm, so we'll see where we're at, what we come up with next year, or maybe later on this year. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Nothing big or crazy. And what Steve recommended, and so did Duncan, is to go with Stita X2 ball joints. Those will bring your spindle and your hub assembly up to stock-ish location, even though you're lowered, whatever you guys are lowered. It's got a raised shaft, so it'll bring your spindle and your strut assembly up a tiny bit to more or less leave you back where your stock geometry is. But that is pretty much it so far. And that's more or less, so if you're on my setup, you'll more or less have a tiny bit of poke and a decent amount of camber. Other than that, it shouldn't be too crazy. We dialed it back from 6.5 to about 4.25 degrees camber. So that helped a lot more, but that is pretty much it. I'm gonna go ahead and end the video in a couple of seconds here, but I just want to give you guys an idea of more or less what you need to do. I'll hold that there for you guys so you guys can get a quick look. But that should be about it, guys. See you guys later.